Have you ever felt drained by chasing someone who doesn't value you, whether it's a romantic partner, a friend, or even a colleague? You pour your energy into trying to earn their attention, their approval, or their love, only to feel more empty and unfulfilled in the process. The Stoics, ancient philosophers known for their timeless wisdom, would tell you that this kind of pursuit is not just exhausting, it's fundamentally misguided. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic thinkers, once said, "We cannot control what others think, feel, or do, but we can control how we respond." This simple yet profound idea is at the heart of the Stoic approach to relationships and self-worth. In this video, we'll explore why chasing others often leads to frustration and disappointment, and more importantly, what Stoic practices you can adopt instead to reclaim your sense of inner peace and empowerment. This isn't about giving up on meaningful connections, it's about building them from a place of strength, not desperation. So, if you've ever felt like you're running in circles trying to win someone over, stick around. What you're about to learn could change the way you approach relationships forever. Chasing others often stems from the illusion that we can control their feelings or actions, a belief that, while comforting, is fundamentally flawed. The Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, remind us that the only thing truly within our control is our own mind and how we choose to respond to the world around us. Everything else, other people's thoughts, emotions, and decisions, lies outside our sphere of influence. As Aurelius famously wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. Think about it: when we chase someone, whether it's in a romantic relationship, a friendship, or even a professional setting, we're often operating under the assumption that if we just say the right thing, do the right thing, or try hard enough, we can sway their feelings or actions in our favor. But here's the hard truth: no amount of effort can force someone to feel or act a certain way. For example, imagine pouring your heart into pursuing someone who simply doesn't share your feelings. No matter how much you try to win them over, their emotions remain their own. The more you chase, the more you exhaust yourself, and the further you drift from your own peace of mind. This is where Stoic wisdom offers a powerful shift in perspective. Instead of wasting energy trying to control the uncontrollable, focus on what you can control: your own thoughts, actions, and reactions. By letting go of the need to influence others, you free yourself from unnecessary stress and disappointment. Take a moment to reflect: where in your life might you be overestimating your control? Are you chasing someone or something that's ultimately beyond your reach? Recognizing this illusion is the first step toward reclaiming your power and redirecting your energy toward what truly matters: your own growth, values, and inner peace. Imagine this: you're holding onto a rope, pulling with all your might, desperate to bring something closer. But the harder you pull, the more exhausted you become, and the further it seems to slip away. This is what attachment can feel like: a relentless tug of war that leaves us drained and unfulfilled. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it plainly: we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. And when it comes to attachment, this couldn't be truer. We imagine that holding on tighter will bring us the security or love we crave, but in truth, it often leads to more pain. The Stoics don't advocate for indifference or cold detachment. Instead, they teach us about healthy detachment, a mindset where we care deeply but remain free from emotional dependency. It's about recognizing that our happiness doesn't hinge on external things or people. When we chase someone, whether it's a romantic partner, a friend, or even a mentor, we're often chasing an outcome we can't control. And that's where the problem lies. We tie our self-worth, our peace of mind, to their approval or presence, and in doing so, we give away our power. So, what would it feel like to let go of that need? To stop chasing and instead focus on what's within your control, your actions, your values, your ability to cultivate inner strength. It's not about abandoning relationships or shutting people out. It's about building a foundation within yourself so strong that no one else's absence or presence can shake it. When you stop chasing, you reclaim your freedom. You stop being a prisoner to someone else's whims and start living on your own terms. Think about it for a moment. How much of your energy is spent trying to win someone over, to earn their attention or affection? And how would your life change if you redirected that energy toward becoming the best version of yourself? The Stoics remind us that true peace comes not from controlling others, but from mastering our own minds. It's a subtle shift, but one that can transform how you approach relationships and life itself. Let's shift our focus to something the Stoics held sacred: virtue. For them, the ultimate measure of a fulfilling life wasn't fame, wealth, or even the approval of others. It was about cultivating a strong, virtuous character. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, once said, "What is the first business of one who practices philosophy? To get rid of self-conceit, for it is impossible for anyone to begin to learn what he thinks he already knows." In other words, true growth begins when we stop seeking validation from the outside and start valuing what's within: our integrity, courage, and self-respect. Think about it. How often do we chase others, whether it's in relationships, friendships, or even at work, because we're looking for that external stamp of approval? We want to feel liked, admired, or needed. But here's the problem: when we tie our worth to how others see us, we give away our power. We become dependent on their reactions, their opinions, and their choices. And that's a fragile place to live. Instead, the Stoics invite us to ask, what if we shifted our focus inward? What if we cared less about being popular and more about being principled? Imagine a scenario where someone pressures you to compromise your values to fit in. Maybe it's agreeing to something you don't believe in or staying silent when you know you should speak up. In that moment, the Stoic choice isn't about pleasing others, it's about honoring your own sense of integrity. It's about saying, "I value my self-respect more than their approval." This doesn't mean ignoring relationships or becoming indifferent to how others feel. It's about recognizing that external validation is fleeting, but the strength of your character is lasting. So here's a question to reflect on. Where in your life are you seeking validation from others? And what would it look like to replace that with a commitment to your own values? The Stoics remind us that true fulfillment doesn't come from being admired. It comes from knowing you've lived with virtue, and that's a goal worth pursuing, no matter who's watching. Sometimes the strongest action is inaction. It's a paradox, isn't it? We often think strength comes from holding on, from fighting for what we want, from chasing after people or things we believe we can't live without. But the Stoics challenge that idea. To them, letting go isn't a sign of weakness, it's an act of profound strength. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's most famous practitioners, often reflected on the impermanence of life. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Relationships too are fleeting. They come and go, and clinging to them when they've run their course only drains your energy and peace of mind." Think about a one-sided friendship. You're putting in all the effort, reaching out, making plans, showing up, but the other person barely reciprocates. It's exhausting, isn't it? And yet, we often hold on because we fear the void their absence might leave. But what if, instead of clinging, you chose to let go? What if you redirected that energy toward people who truly value you? Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop sacrificing your well-being for something that no longer serves you. It's about reclaiming your power, your time, and your peace. So, what might you gain by releasing your grip? Freedom, clarity, the chance to focus on what truly matters. When you stop chasing, you create space for what aligns with your values and brings genuine fulfillment. It's not easy, letting go never is, but it's often the first step toward building a life that reflects your inner strength. And isn't that worth considering? Is it possible to care deeply without being consumed? This question sits at the heart of Stoic philosophy, especially when it comes to understanding the difference between detachment and indifference. At first glance, they might seem similar, both involve stepping back, right? But the Stoics would argue that there's a world of difference between the two. Detachment, in their view, isn't about shutting off your emotions or pretending you don't care. It's about creating a kind of emotional resilience, a way to care deeply without letting those feelings overwhelm you or control your actions. Indifference, on the other hand, is about not caring at all, and that's not what Stoicism teaches. Seneca once wrote, "We should bring ourselves to love all our dear ones, but always in such a way that we do not become the slave of our affection." What he's saying here is profound. It's not that we shouldn't love or care for others. Stoics value relationships deeply, but we also shouldn't let those attachments consume us to the point where we lose our sense of self or our ability to make clear, rational decisions. Think of it like holding a bird in your hand. Hold it too tightly and you'll crush it. Hold it too loosely and it flies away. The Stoic approach is to hold it just right, firm enough to care but light enough to let go if you must. So how can you care without losing yourself? It starts with understanding that your emotions, while valid, don't have to dictate your actions. You can feel deeply for someone or something, but you don't have to let those feelings spiral into anxiety, obsession, or despair. This is where detachment comes in. It's not about erasing your emotions, it's about managing them. It's about saying, "I care, but I won't let this care destroy my peace or my ability to act wisely." Imagine you're in a situation where someone you love is going through a tough time. Naturally, you want to help. A Stoic would say, help them, but don't lose yourself in the process. Offer your support, but don't take on their pain as your own. Be there for them, but don't let their struggle become your entire world. This is the balance Stoics strive for, a deep, meaningful connection that doesn't come at the cost of your own well-being. Reflect on this for a moment. How can you care without losing yourself? How can you show up fully for the people and causes that matter to you while still maintaining your own emotional stability? It's a delicate dance, but one worth mastering, because when you learn to care without being consumed, you don't just protect your peace, you also become a stronger, more effective source of support for those around you. Chasing others often reveals a lack of self-worth, a truth the Stoics understood deeply. They believed that when we constantly seek validation or approval from others, it's a sign that we haven't yet rooted our value in ourselves. Instead of looking outward, the Stoics taught that true fulfillment comes from cultivating inner strength, self-discipline, and virtue. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it plainly, "No one is free who is not a master of themselves." In other words, self-respect isn't something others can give you, it's something you build from within. Think about it this way: when we chase someone, whether it's a romantic partner, a friend, or even a mentor, we're often trying to fill a void. We might believe that their attention or approval will make us feel whole, but the Stoics warn that this approach is like building a house on sand. Without a solid foundation of self-worth, any relationship or connection we create will be unstable, vulnerable to the slightest shift in circumstances or emotions. A modern example of this is staying in toxic relationships. How many people cling to unhealthy dynamics because they fear being alone or believe they don't deserve better? The Stoics would argue that this isn't love or loyalty, it's a lack of self-respect. When we truly value ourselves, we set boundaries, walk away from what harms us, and refuse to settle for less than we deserve. This isn't about arrogance or entitlement. It's about recognizing your own inherent worth and refusing to compromise it for anyone. So take a moment to reflect. Where in your life are you chasing someone or something because you're seeking validation? Are you staying in situations that don't serve you because you're afraid of being alone? The Stoics would encourage you to turn inward, to focus on developing your character and living in alignment with your values. When you do, you'll find that you no longer need to chase anyone because you've already found the one person worth investing in, yourself. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." These words cut to the heart of Stoic philosophy, reminding us of life's fleeting nature. The Stoics didn't see impermanence as something to fear or resist. They saw it as a truth to embrace. It's this acceptance that helps us let go of unhealthy attachments, whether to people, outcomes, or even our own expectations. When we chase someone, whether it's a romantic partner, a friend, or even validation from others, we're often fighting against the natural rhythm of life. Relationships, like everything else, have their seasons. Some last a lifetime, while others are meant to teach us something and then fade away. The Stoics would argue that trying to cling to what's meant to change only brings frustration and suffering. Take the story of Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who was born into slavery and later lost his freedom. Despite these immense losses, he didn't waste energy chasing what was gone. Instead, he focused on what he could control: his own mind and actions. He accepted that external circumstances, including relationships, are beyond his power. This acceptance didn't make him indifferent or cold. It gave him a profound sense of peace. He understood that impermanence isn't a flaw in the universe, it's the way things are. So, what does this mean for you when you find yourself chasing someone, whether it's trying to win their affection, keep their attention, or force a connection? Pause and ask yourself, am I resisting the natural flow of this relationship? Relationships, like life itself, are dynamic. They grow, change, and sometimes end. Chasing someone often blinds us to the reality of what's happening right in front of us. Instead of trying to hold on, Stoicism teaches us to appreciate what's here, right now, without demanding it stay forever. Reflect on this. What would it feel like to let go of the need to control how others see you or whether they stay in your life? Impermanence isn't about giving up, it's about finding freedom in acceptance. When you stop chasing, you create space for something deeper, a sense of peace with the way things are, even if they're not exactly what you'd planned. Relying on others for your happiness is like building your house on sand. It might hold for a while, but eventually it's going to crumble. The Stoics were crystal clear about this. When you tie your emotional well-being to someone else's actions or attention, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, put it best when he said, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." In other words, your peace of mind shouldn't hinge on what someone else does or doesn't do. It's about finding contentment within yourself, no matter what's happening around you. Think about it this way. If your happiness depends on someone texting you back or giving you validation or meeting your expectations, you're handing over control of your emotions to someone else. And let's be honest, people are unpredictable. They have their own lives, priorities, and struggles. When you rely on them to fill a void in your life, you're essentially gambling with your own peace of mind. The Stoics, on the other hand, believed in cultivating self-sufficiency. They taught that real fulfillment comes from within, not from external sources. Here's a practical example. Instead of waiting for someone to make you feel valued or loved, why not channel that energy into something you can control? Take up a hobby that excites you, something like painting, hiking, or learning a new skill. When you invest in activities that bring you joy, you're not only building your own sense of accomplishment, but also creating a life that's rich and fulfilling, regardless of whether someone else is there to share it with you. So here's a question for you to think about. Where are you placing your emotional dependencies? Are you waiting for someone else to make you happy, or are you taking steps to cultivate your own inner peace? The beauty of Stoicism is that it reminds us we always have a choice. We can choose to rely on ourselves to find strength and joy within, rather than looking for it in places we can't control. How often do you find yourself truly present in your relationships, not just physically there, but fully engaged, undistracted, and actively listening? It's a question worth asking because for the Stoics, being present isn't just a nice to have. It's a cornerstone of living well. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it plainly: we are not disturbed by what happens to us, but by our thoughts about what happens to us. In other words, our focus on the future, on what might happen or what we might lose, often pulls us away from the richness of the present moment. And when we're not present, we miss the very thing we're chasing: meaningful connection. Think about it. How many times have you been in a conversation where your mind was already racing ahead, planning what to say next, worrying about how you're being perceived, or even daydreaming about something entirely unrelated? It happens to all of us, but here's the thing: when you're not fully present, you're not really there. You might as well be a ghost in the room, drifting through the interaction without truly connecting. The Stoics would argue that this is a form of self-sabotage. By fixating on future outcomes, whether it's impressing someone, winning an argument, or securing a relationship, you rob yourself of the chance to experience the relationship as it is right here, right now. Let's take a relatable scenario. Imagine you're out to dinner with a friend. They're sharing something important, something vulnerable, but your mind is elsewhere. Maybe you're thinking about work, scrolling through your phone, or even just mentally rehearsing your response. In that moment, you're not chasing the relationship itself. You're chasing some idea of it, some future version where everything is perfect. But here's the irony: the more you chase that future, the more you miss the real, imperfect, and beautiful connection happening right in front of you. The Stoics would say this is a waste of the only thing we truly own, the present moment. So what can you do instead? Start by practicing presence. It doesn't require grand gestures or hours of meditation. It's as simple as noticing when your mind starts to wander and gently bringing it back to the moment. When you're with someone, really be with them. Listen without planning your reply. Notice the details: their tone, their expressions, the little pauses that reveal what they're not saying. This kind of presence is a gift, not just to the other person, but to yourself. It's a way of saying, this moment matters, this connection matters. And when you approach your relationships this way, you'll find that you stop chasing and start living fully, deeply, and meaningfully. Take a moment to reflect. How often are you truly present in your relationships? What might change if you stopped chasing future outcomes and started embracing the present? The Stoics believed that the quality of our lives depends on the quality of our attention. Where is yours directed? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. This simple yet profound idea lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy, especially when it comes to facing rejection. For the Stoics, rejection isn't a personal failure or a reflection of your worth. It's simply an external event, something outside your control. And the way you respond to it, that's where your power truly lies. Think about it this way: rejection, whether it's in love, work, or even friendship, is often seen as a blow to our ego. We take it personally, as if it's proof that we're not good enough. But the Stoics would challenge that mindset. Instead of resisting or resenting rejection, they'd encourage you to see it as an opportunity, a chance to practice resilience, to strengthen your character, and to grow. Take a modern example, a breakup. It's easy to spiral into self-doubt or anger when a relationship ends. But what if, instead of clinging to what's gone, you chose to focus on what you can learn from the experience? What if you saw it as a moment to reflect on your own growth, to rebuild your sense of self, and to move forward with dignity? That's Stoicism in action, accepting what happens without resistance and using it as fuel for personal transformation. So here's a question to reflect on. How can you turn rejection into resilience? How can you shift your perspective so that, instead of feeling defeated, you feel empowered? The Stoics would remind you that rejection isn't the end of the road, it's just a bend in the path. And how you navigate that bend is entirely up to you. Non-attachment isn't about indifference or cold detachment. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of outcomes you can't control. Think of it like this: when you hold onto something too tightly, whether it's a relationship, a goal, or even a specific expectation, you set yourself up for unnecessary suffering. The Stoics, like Epictetus, remind us that true peace comes from focusing only on what's within our power, our thoughts, actions, and choices. Everything else, it's not up to us. Picture this: you've been putting effort into a friendship, hoping it will grow into something deeper, but instead of reciprocating, the other person seems distant. If you're attached to the outcome, the idea that this person must respond in a certain way, you're setting yourself up for frustration. But if you shift your focus inward to the effort you've put in and the values you've upheld, you'll find a sense of calm. You did your part, the rest isn't yours to control. This isn't about giving up or not caring. It's about recognizing that you can't force people or situations to align with your desires. When you let go of that need, you reclaim your freedom. You stop being a prisoner to external circumstances. So take a moment to reflect: where in your life are you holding on too tightly? What would it feel like to loosen that grip, even just a little? Non-attachment doesn't mean you stop trying. It means you stop letting the outcome define your peace. Resilience is the antidote to chasing. When we chase, we often do so because we feel a lack of love, validation, or security. But the Stoics teach us that true strength comes from within, not from external validation. Resilience isn't just about weathering the storm. It's about learning to stand tall even when the winds of life try to knock you down. And the key to building this resilience lies in self-discipline and perspective. Take Seneca's words to heart: fire tests gold, suffering tests brave men. The Stoics believed that hardship isn't something to avoid, it's something to embrace as a teacher. Every challenge, every setback is an opportunity to strengthen your inner resolve. Think about a time you faced rejection, perhaps a failed relationship or a missed opportunity. It's easy to feel defeated, to think that the pain will never fade, but the Stoic approach is different. Instead of dwelling on what you've lost, focus on what you can gain: clarity, growth, and the chance to rebuild yourself stronger than before. Imagine this: you've just gone through a breakup. Your instinct might be to chase after the person, to try to fix things, or to seek comfort in distractions. But what if instead you paused? What if you took a moment to reflect on what this experience is teaching you? Maybe it's showing you that you're stronger than you thought. Maybe it's revealing areas where you can grow. Resilience isn't about avoiding pain. It's about using that pain as fuel to become the best version of yourself. So where does self-discipline come in? It's about choosing not to react impulsively. It's about training yourself to respond to life's challenges with calm and clarity. When you feel the urge to chase, pause. Ask yourself: is this truly serving me? Am I acting from a place of strength, or am I running from my own discomfort? By practicing this kind of self-awareness, you build a kind of inner fortress, one that no external circumstance can easily shake. Now take a moment to reflect: where in your life could you use a little more resilience? What challenges have you faced that, with the right perspective, could become opportunities for growth? The Stoic path isn't about denying your emotions, it's about mastering them. And when you do, you'll find that chasing becomes unnecessary. you'll realize that everything you need to feel whole and secure is already within you. What if the energy you spend chasing others was directed inward instead? The Stoics believed that the key to true fulfillment lies not in seeking validation or approval from others, but in focusing on what you can control, your own growth and character. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most famous Stoic philosophers, often wrote about the importance of self-reflection. He saw it as a way to align your actions with your values, rather than wasting effort on things outside your influence. Imagine pouring all that energy you might spend chasing someone's affection, approval, or attention into something that truly serves you, like learning a new skill, improving your health, or deepening your understanding of yourself. Take the example of unrequited love. It's easy to get caught up in trying to win someone's heart, but the Stoics would ask, what if that same energy was redirected toward becoming the best version of yourself? Instead of waiting for someone else to value you, what if you focused on valuing yourself first? This doesn't mean shutting others out or becoming indifferent to relationships. It's about recognizing that your worth isn't tied to anyone else's opinion. By investing in your own growth, you not only become more resilient but also more capable of building meaningful connections from a place of strength, not desperation. So, what does this look like in practice? It could mean setting aside time each day for self-reflection, journaling, or meditation. It might involve pursuing a passion you've neglected or taking steps to improve your mental and physical well-being. The Stoics would remind you that the most powerful investment you can make is in yourself. And here's a question to consider. Where in your life right now are you chasing something or someone external? How might your life change if you redirected that energy inward? Seneca once wrote, "The time you spend alone with yourself is the time you learn who you really are." For the Stoics, solitude wasn't something to fear or avoid. It was a sacred space for self-discovery and renewal. Think about it. When was the last time you truly sat with your thoughts, without distractions, without the need to fill the silence with noise or the company of others? For many of us, the idea of being alone can feel uncomfortable, even scary. But here's the thing: chasing others, whether in relationships or in seeking validation, often stems from that very fear of being alone with ourselves. Picture this: after a breakup, the instinct is to fill the void, immediately jumping into a new relationship, surrounding yourself with friends, or burying yourself in work. But what if, instead of running from the discomfort, you leaned into it? What if you allowed yourself that quiet time to reflect, to heal, and to reconnect with who you are outside of that relationship? That's where the magic of solitude lies. It's not about loneliness, it's about creating space to grow, to understand your values, and to build a stronger sense of self. So, let me ask you this: when was the last time you truly embraced solitude? Not as a punishment, but as a gift, a chance to reset, to realign, and to rediscover what truly matters to you. The Stoics believed that the more comfortable you become in your own company, the less you'll feel the need to chase after others for fulfillment, and that's a lesson worth exploring. What does it mean to live in harmony with nature? For the Stoics, this isn't about living in the wilderness or adopting a minimalist lifestyle, though those can be part of it. It's about aligning yourself with the natural order of life, accepting what's beyond your control, and focusing on what you can influence. This principle applies to everything, including relationships. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, emphasized the importance of living according to reason. He believed that when we align our actions with reason and nature, we find peace and clarity, even in the chaos of life. Think of it like this: relationships, whether friendships, romantic connections, or family ties, have their own natural rhythms. Trying to force them into a shape that doesn't fit, chasing someone who isn't interested, clinging to a connection that's fading, or trying to control how others feel only creates tension and frustration. Instead, Stoicism teaches us to let relationships unfold as they're meant to. It's about recognizing that some bonds grow stronger over time, while others naturally drift apart, and that's okay. Imagine a stream flowing down a mountainside. It doesn't fight against the rocks or try to change its course. It moves with the terrain, finding its path effortlessly. That's the kind of ease and acceptance the Stoics encourage. When we stop trying to control every aspect of our relationships and instead allow them to evolve naturally, we free ourselves from unnecessary stress and disappointment. So take a moment to reflect. Are you trying to force something in your life that isn't aligning with its natural flow? Are you chasing a relationship or clinging to an outcome that's slipping away? Consider what it might feel like to let go of that resistance and embrace the natural rhythm of life. What changes could that bring to your sense of peace and fulfillment? Gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues but the parent of all others. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "These words hold a profound truth, especially when we consider how often we chase after things, people, or outcomes in life." The Stoics believed that much of this chasing stems from a mindset of scarcity, a feeling that we're missing something, that we're incomplete without whatever it is we're pursuing. But what if, instead of focusing on what we lack, we turned our attention to what we already have? What if gratitude became our anchor rather than the endless chase? Imagine this: you're scrolling through social media and you see someone posting about their perfect relationship, their dream job, or their latest achievement. Almost instantly, you might feel that pang of comparison, that urge to chase after something similar. But here's where Stoicism offers a powerful alternative. Instead of letting that scarcity mindset take hold, Stoics encourage us to pause and reflect on what we already possess. Gratitude, in this sense, isn't just a feel-good practice, it's a tool for shifting our perspective. It helps us recognize that we already have enough, that we are enough. Take relationships, for example. How often do we find ourselves seeking validation or attention from others, only to overlook the people who are already showing up for us in meaningful ways? Instead of chasing new connections, what if we took a moment to appreciate the existing ones? Stoicism teaches us that this kind of gratitude not only strengthens our bonds, but also frees us from the exhausting cycle of seeking external approval. It's about finding contentment in the present moment rather than constantly reaching for something beyond it. So, here's a challenge for you. Think about one thing or person in your life that you often take for granted. Maybe it's a friend who's always there to listen, a family member who supports you unconditionally, or even a small daily joy like the warmth of sunlight through your window. Take a moment to truly appreciate it. How does that shift your focus? How does it change the way you approach your day? Gratitude, as the Stoics understood, isn't just about saying thank you. It's about creating a mindset that allows us to live more fully, right here, right now. And in doing so, we might just find that what we were chasing after was never as important as what we already have. Detachment is the path to true freedom. At first glance, it might sound counterintuitive. How can letting go of something or someone lead to liberation? But for the Stoics, detachment isn't about indifference or apathy. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional chains that bind you to things outside your control. Think about it. When you're overly attached to outcomes, people, or even your own expectations, you're handing over your peace of mind to forces you can't govern. And that's where the turmoil begins. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it simply: freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. In other words, true freedom comes from focusing on what's within your power, your thoughts, your actions, your responses, and letting go of everything else. This isn't about giving up or avoiding life. It's about reclaiming your energy and redirecting it toward what truly matters. take the example of a toxic relationship. When you're deeply attached to someone who doesn't respect or value you, it can feel like you're trapped in a cycle of hurt and disappointment. But detachment here doesn't mean you stop caring altogether. It means you stop allowing that person's behavior to dictate your emotional state. By stepping back, you create space to see the situation clearly, to set boundaries, and to prioritize your own well-being. That's freedom not from the relationship itself, but from the emotional chaos it creates. So, what about you? When was the last time you felt truly free? Not free in the sense of having no responsibilities, but free from the weight of external expectations, from the fear of losing something or someone, from the need to control what's beyond your reach. The Stoics would argue that this kind of freedom is always within your grasp. It's not about changing the world around you, it's about changing how you relate to it. Detachment, then, becomes a tool, a way to untangle yourself from the things that hold you back and to step into a life of greater clarity, purpose, and, yes, freedom. What does a Stoic relationship look like? At its core, it's not about clinging to another person or seeking validation from them. Instead, it's about cultivating a bond rooted in mutual respect, virtue, and emotional independence. The Stoics believed that the healthiest relationships are those where both individuals grow together, not because they need each other, but because they choose each other. This might sound counterintuitive in a world that often glorifies dependency, but the Stoics saw it differently. Seneca once said, "If you wish to be loved, love." This simple yet profound statement captures the essence of Stoic relationships. It's not about demanding affection or trying to control how someone feels about you. It's about embodying the qualities you wish to see in others: kindness, honesty, and respect. When you focus on being the best version of yourself, you naturally attract people who value those same qualities. And here's the key: a Stoic relationship isn't built on emotional neediness. It's built on a foundation of shared values and a commitment to personal growth. Imagine two people coming together, not to complete each other, but to complement each other. Picture a partnership where both individuals are emotionally self-sufficient. They don't rely on their partner to fill a void or fix their problems. Instead, they support each other's journeys, celebrating victories and offering encouragement during challenges. This is what it means to build a relationship grounded in Stoic principles. It's about choosing someone who aligns with your values, not someone who validates your insecurities. So take a moment to reflect on your own relationships. Are they rooted in mutual respect and shared growth? Or do you find yourself chasing approval or trying to hold onto someone out of fear of being alone? The Stoics remind us that chasing others often leads to disappointment, but focusing on your own virtue and independence creates the space for meaningful connections to flourish. It's not about finding someone to complete you, it's about becoming someone who can stand strong even as you walk alongside another. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. These words capture the essence of Stoic philosophy. Fulfillment is not something we chase in the world around us, but something we cultivate within. The Stoics believed that true joy comes from mastering our own thoughts, emotions, and actions, not from seeking approval or validation from others. When we chase after people, whether it's for affection, recognition, or connection, it often reveals a deeper void, a lack of inner contentment. Think about it. If you're constantly looking to others to fill a sense of emptiness, what happens when they're not there? The Stoics argue that relying on external sources for happiness is like building a house on sand. It's unstable and fleeting. Instead, they encourage us to turn inward, to find satisfaction in our own character, values, and efforts. Consider this. Imagine you've spent months working on a personal project, maybe writing a book, learning a new skill, or even improving your health. When you finally achieve that goal, the sense of pride and fulfillment you feel doesn't depend on anyone else's opinion. That's the kind of joy the Stoics are talking about. It's rooted in your own growth, your own journey, and your own ability to persevere. So take a moment to reflect. Where do you find your sense of fulfillment? Is it in the applause of others, or is it in the quiet satisfaction of knowing you've done your best? The Stoics remind us that the most enduring happiness comes from within, from a life lived with purpose and integrity. When we stop chasing others and start nurturing our own inner world, we discover a source of joy that no one can take away. So, what does all of this mean for us? At its core, Stoicism teaches us that chasing others, whether for approval, affection, or validation, is a losing game. Why? Because it places our happiness in the hands of things outside our control. Instead, the Stoics urge us to turn inward, to focus on what we can control, our thoughts, actions, and values. This is where true peace is found. Detachment, self-worth, and resilience are the pillars of this philosophy. Detachment doesn't mean we stop caring about others. It means we stop allowing their opinions or actions to dictate our self-worth. Self-worth is something we cultivate within ourselves, not something we seek from external validation. And resilience, that's the ability to stand firm in the face of adversity, knowing that our strength comes from our ability to adapt and grow. As Epictetus once said, happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle: some things are within our control and some things are not. When we stop chasing what's beyond our control, like the approval or presence of others, we free ourselves to focus on what truly matters: our own growth, our own peace, and our own sense of purpose. So I want to leave you with this. Take a moment to reflect. Where in your life are you chasing something or someone that's outside your control? How might you shift your focus inward toward what you can change? The answers to these questions could be the first step toward a more grounded, resilient, and fulfilling life. If this resonates with you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more insights on Stoicism and how to apply its timeless wisdom to your everyday life. Until next time, remember, true peace isn't found in chasing others, it's found within you.